Yes, hello everyone. So we proceed our journey of understanding skull after anterior cranial fossa to middle cranial fossa. So in middle cranial fossa, what are we expected to know? We are expected to know that what are the bones which form the middle cranial fossa or constitute the middle cranial fossa. The bones are sphenoid, right? Temporal, right? And parietal. Okay, we will articulate them and we will form the middle cranial fossa. What are the foramens which we need to identify? Middle cranial fossa has abundance of foramens, and these are the 8 foramens which your teachers keep on asking and pointing during the examination. What are these? Let us first know the names before we go into the details. Optic canal, superior orbital fissure, foramen rotundum, foramen ovale, foramen spinosum, foramen of Vesalius and innominatum. They are inconstant foramen, but if you are doing very good in your examination, the teacher will ask you about these. And finally, foramen lacetum. So we need to identify these foramens, and also we need to understand that what are the structures passing through these foramina. You realize that we have already done the anterior cranial fossa, right? The posterior margins of which are the posterior margins of the lesser wings of the sphenoid, the anterior clinoid processes, the anterior margin of the sulcus chiasmaticus. Okay, and so this is the posterior margin. Now I show you the same thing over here on the real skull. Here you have the posterior margins of the anterior cranial fossa, which will actually form the anterior margin of the middle cranial fossa. What are they? The lesser wings, posterior margin of the lesser wings of the sphenoid, anterior clinoid process on either side, right? And the anterior margin of sulcus chiasmaticus, right? Anterior margin of sulcus chiasmaticus. Beyond that, more posteriorly, this is the middle cranial fossa. And if you realize, the middle cranial fossa laterally has the greater wings of the sphenoid, the body of the sphenoid. It has the petrous part of the temporal bone, the squamous part of the temporal bone, and more superiorly, it has the parietal bone, specifically the antero-inferior angles of the parietal bone. Let me show you these bones and articulate them so that you understand them better. Let us see. I replace the disarticulated bone here, sphenoid bone. All right. These are the posterior margins of the lesser wing. These are the anterior clinoid processes. This is the anterior margin of sulcus chiasmaticus precisely. And then beyond that starts the middle cranial fossa, where you see that this is the greater wing of the sphenoid. You see this is the body of the sphenoid, and this is the sella turcica. We have already seen all these things, and now let us complete this puzzle of middle cranial fossa. We want to articulate with the squamous and petrous part of the temporal bone, right? So here, let me first show you. This is the petrous part of the temporal bone. This is the posterior margin of the middle cranial fossa, which is formed by the superior border of the petrous temporal bone, right? And in the midline, the posterior margin is formed by dorsum sellae. What is dorsum sellae? What is tuberculum sellae? All these things, they trouble you. Right now, do not worry about that. I will explain you all these things precisely, and there will be no problem. Okay, let us continue articulating. So here we have the sphenoid bone. Here we have the petrous temporal bone and the squamous temporal bone articulating posteriorly with the greater wings of the sphenoid, right? Do you realize this is where these two bones will articulate? So this will be the petrosphenoid suture, guys, right? Forming it once again, and finally we have, this is the anterior margin of the middle cranial fossa. the superior border of the petrous temporal bone and the dorsum sellae, forming the posterior margin of the middle cranial fossa. And more laterally, the parietal bone is also a part of the middle cranial fossa. Yellow is the sphenoid bone. Red color is the petrous and the squamous parts of the temporal bone, and green is the parietal posterior clinoid processes. So एक छोटा सा अपन understanding करते हैं of these structures so that the things are little easier for us. Now first of all, let us identify where is sella turcica. This is sella turcica. Sella turcica, the deepest part of which is called hypophyseal fossa, in which the pituitary gland is lodged. Right? Now you observe this bone, you know, you will find that there are very nominal differences, but basically, you know, understanding this sphenoid bone is easier. These are the lesser wings of the sphenoid. Between the lesser wings of the sphenoid, the central part, this part is called as jugum sphenoidale. Jugum sphenoidale, you step down and you land on to the sulcus chiasmaticus. Nowadays, do not use the terminology sulcus chiasmaticus. They call it prechiasmatic sulcus, for the simple reason being that chiasma, which refers to optic chiasma, previously it was believed that it overlies this area, but now it has been proved that the optic chiasma lies posterior superior to this part, and that's why we call it prechiasmatic sulcus. Pre means anteriorly. This sulcus lies anteriorly, while optic chiasma lies posterior superior to this sulcus. So you may call it prechiasmatic sulcus also. I belong to old school, so allow me to call it sulcus chiasmaticus, please. Now, so this is the anterior margin of the sulcus chiasmaticus, which marks the posterior boundary of the anterior cranial fossa and marks the anterior boundary of the middle cranial fossa. I hope we are very clear about it. And then we come to the next step down, and that is sella turcica. Now, what is tuberculum sellae? Tuberculum sellae is the anterior raised margin of sella turcica. So, where I am moving my pen, that is tuberculum sellae. And the lateral prominences of tuberculum sellae, just by the side of tuberculum sellae, here you see, I will color it. Okay, let me see, I have a green color and I can color it green. See, these are the middle clinoid processes. See, I have colored it green and I have colored it green over here. They're very thin, very, very tiny. Sometimes they may be absent. So you may be asked that anterior clinoid processes, posterior clinoid processes and middle clinoid processes, which one is inconsistent? So this is the one which is inconstant. So tuberculum sellae, see, I mark it with the green color, beautiful green color, and this is the middle clinoid processes on either side. They mark the anterior structures of the sella turcica. What is dorsum sellae? Dorsum sellae is a square-shaped bone posterior to the sella turcica. So this raised bone here, right? This raised bone here, this is the dorsum sellae. And here these are not very clearly seen because it is eroded, but here the lateral ends are of the dorsum sellae. They are called as posterior clinoid processes, and these are the anterior clinoid processes, which are the extensions of the lesser wing of sphenoid. Let me show you the same thing in this diagrammatic picture, the way I told you that, see, jugum sphenoidale, and then we jump on to the sulcus chiasmaticus or prechiasmatic sulcus, and then we jump on to the sella turcica here, and then I showed you that what is tuberculum sellae, that is this part, the anterior raised margin of the sella turcica. This is the tuberculum sellae, the lateral ends of which will be called as the middle clinoid processes. No problems. The deepest part of sella turcica is the hypophyseal fossa because it contains the pituitary gland. The posterior square-shaped raised margin of the sella turcica is called as dorsum sellae. Let me clearly make it for you, right? And the lateral ends of which are called as the posterior clinoid processes. So posterior clinoid processes are here. You know what? I just got this, you know, this is the stapler. This is same as the sella turcica. So this is the sella turcica, this is the tuberculum sellae. If I consider this part anteriorly and this part posteriorly. These are the middle clinoid processes and these are the posterior clinoid processes. You know, I'm going to eat your head about these processes so that they never bother you. Now see this picture again. You know, you see that this is the hypophyseal fossa, right? You see that this is the sulcus chiasmaticus, and you see that the anterior margin, raised margin of sella turcica, this is called as tuberculum sellae here. You can see that these are the middle clinoid processes here, right? Middle clinoid processes, see they have named it right here, middle clinoid processes. And then the dorsum sellae, the posterior margin here, this is the dorsum sellae, and the posterior clinoid processes. You know, clina, C-L-I-N-A, that refers to the poster bed. What is a poster bed? What is a poster bed? See in the inset, this is the poster bed. Okay, so these clinoid processes, they are like a poster bed. They are like elevations by the side of a depression. So that is why they are named as these processes. And now see the here in this picture. So this is the sella turcica. These are the elevations of the lesser wing of sphenoid, the anterior clinoid processes, and these are the posterior clinoid processes. Why sella turcica is called sella turcica? Because that is similar to the Turkish saddle. You see, this is the same picture. These are the anterior clinoid processes, these are the posterior clinoid processes, and you sit over here and write through the middle cranial fossa smiling. Okay? Okay. Yes, so as I was telling you that you are sitting right here in the sella turcica and riding smilingly through the middle cranial fossa, and you are now in a position to identify various foramens. As I told you that there are approximately 8 foramens. ठीक है, दो उसमें से इनकन्सिस्टेंट निकाल दिए तो एटलीस्ट 6 foramens which you will have to learn, which you will have to know how to identify them. The story doesn't end here, but yes, the story begins here because that will be asked in the examination of first year MBBS. My perspective is broader. I'll let you know about it. Let us start identifying the foramens first. The first is just medial to the anterior clinoid process. My pointer goes through it. Okay, and this pointer is thick enough to pass through this, so I am taking a fine wire and through this I will guide this wire, and this wire reaches somewhere outside the skull cavity. Where does it reach? It reaches the bony orbit. This wire is coming out through the bony orbit, and what is that? This is called as optic canal. Optic canal, and you can see that this optic canal, I hold it still, and this is the optic canal, and just inferior to the optic canal, the big broad foramen, here. Now see, this is the optic canal here, and just inferior to that, the big broad foramen, this foramen is called as superior orbital fissure. Let me put this now back into the skull through the superior orbital fissure, and we see the superior orbital fissure here opening in the middle cranial fossa under the lesser wings of sphenoid. Under the lesser wings of sphenoid, you can see that how is it? Its medial end is broad and its lateral end is little narrow, and it is an elongated foramen. It is called as superior orbital fissure. Okay, I keep the skull still now. We have identified optic canal, we have identified superior orbital fissure. Okay, with regards to some landmarks which we will remember. For optic canal, we will remember the anterior clinoid processes, and just under the lesser wing of sphenoid, between the lesser wing and the greater wing, I will again show you that this is the superior orbital fissure. Just posterior to the medial end of superior orbit. Okay, foramen rotunda. Yes, so we just saw the superior orbital fissure and then we saw rotundum. Now I am superimposing the sphenoid and looking at the things again. Okay, which more clearly, these are the foramina present in the sphenoid bone. See, anterior cleroid processes, and on either side you see the optic canal. You know, they call it optic foramen sometimes. I believe that it is a canal because canals are elongated. Okay, so optic canal. All right, identified optic canal very clearly. Don't worry about the structures, we'll see that aram se. Identify the lesser wing, something hidden below, lesser wing above, greater wing below, and medially there is the body of the sphenoid, this elongated foramen. This is the superior orbital fissure, this whole thing, this is the superior orbital fissure. Medially it is broad, laterally it is narrow. Okay, and now just behind the medial end of the superior orbital fissure, this is foramen rotundum. All the foramens in the sphenoid bone. मज़े की बात ये है, आपको कुछ भी मेहनत नहीं करनी है, सारी मेहनत sphenoid bone ने की हुई है. It is carrying all the load of all the foramina. Just take it into your mind. So that's the foramen rotundum. And now if you look at the greater wing of the sphenoid, okay, and if you look at its posteromedial border, along the posteromedial border behind foramen rotundum, this beautiful foramen which is, you know, favorite of every examiner, this is called as foramen ovale. What it is called as? Foramen ovale. Okay, it's a oval foramen, that's the reason it's called foramen ovale. And just behind the foramen ovale, this is called as foramen spinosum. What it is called as? Foramen spinosum. Remember, along the posteromedial border of the greater wing of sphenoid bone. Okay, we missed one foramen between rotundum and ovale, that is called as foramen. This is the area, this is the location where the foramen of Vesalius or emissary sphenoidal foramen is located between foramen rotundum and foramen ovale. And between foramen ovale and foramen spinosum is located foramen innominatum. What it is called? Innominatum. Okay, so if I start from posterior to anterior side, it will be spinosum, innominatum, it will be ovale, it will be Vesalius, and it will be rotundum, all along the posteromedial border of the greater wing of sphenoid. Can I give you a mnemonic for this? Don't try to be dependent on the mnemonics, they are always deceptive. Okay, but yes, for now I will help you with the mnemonic. Let us start from posterior to anterior side once again. Start it over is what I want to tell you. So let us do it. Let us have spinosum. S stands for spinosum. I stands for the innominatum, which lies between the spinosum and ovale. Then we have ovale here, and then we have Vesalius, that is emissary sphenoidal foramen over. So we have the Vesalius here, and we have the R rotundum here. Okay, we have the optic canals here and superior orbital fissure here, all into your eyes, all into your bony orbit. Okay, so this is how we can remember the foramina for understanding the foramen lacerum. Now, majority of these foramens are where they are within the sphenoid bone, but one foramen, actually, you know, the new edition of Grace tells us that this is not actually a foramen, this is actually a misnomer. The foramen lacerum is a foramen which is present at the junction of articulation between the sphenoid bone with the basal occiput like this. You know, don't worry about the sizes, people, because see, this bone is from some other person, this bone is from some other person, so the sizes may vary, okay, but the body of the sphenoid articulates with the basal occiput like this, okay. One thing, I hold it and then I insert the petrous temporal bone like this. I cannot insert because this bone is ulta. I'll hold it from this side, then I can insert, and then I can insert it here like this. You know, I articulate it, little difficult, but yes, I can articulate. Where do we have to focus? Okay, where we have to focus? We have to focus between the petrosphenoid and petrooccipital suture. So this is the area of articulation which will lead to the formation of the foramen lacerum. Now, area petrosphenoidal suture and petrooccipital suture, where we get this foramen, that is foramen of lacerum. Foramen of lacerum. You can clearly see all other foramina anteriorly in the posteromedial boundary of the greater wing of sphenoid, and you can see the lacerum foramen at the point of meeting of the petrous part of the temporal bone, the greater wing of the sphenoid, and this body of the sphenoid and the basal occiput. So yes, so up till now we have identified the foramina in the middle cranial fossa. The next important thing which we must do is to learn the structures passing through these foramina. A little information I'll be giving you here and there about the structures which pass through these foramina, because in detail we will definitely learn as the story proceeds. So from anterior to posterior side, if we just recall, so optic canal or optic foramen within the lesser wing of sphenoid. What passes through it? Optic nerve and ophthalmic artery passes through the optic canal. This foramen, optic foramen, lies over the medial broad end of superior orbital fissure. Superior orbital fissure is an elongated foramen we had seen, and it has an elevation at the lower border. Attached to this elevation there is a tendinous ring of Zinn. Don't worry about that, it is just a tendon, you can understand, which gives attachment to the muscles of the eyeball. But what difference it makes? It divides the superior orbital fissure into three compartments: medial, middle and lateral. And also this tendinous ring of Zinn encloses the optic canal within itself. Alright. So now what passes through the superior orbital fissure? Through the superior orbital fissure, all the things directed to the eyeball, to the lacrimal apparatus, all these things will pass through it. Right? So what are the nerves, cranial nerves, which supply the muscles of the eyeball? There are three cranial nerves, remember, 3, 4 and 6. Right? These cranial nerves will definitely pass through the superior orbital fissure. Already the second cranial nerve has passed through the optic foramen. Right? So the third cranial nerve, there is oculomotor. I will denote it with O. The fourth cranial nerve is called trochlear, and I will denote it with T. And the sixth cranial nerve is abducent cranial nerve. It will be denoted with A. Besides this, the ophthalmic division of the fifth cranial nerve, that is V1, will also pass through it. Because it is the ophthalmic division, the name suggests that it is destined to supply the structures within the bony orbit. So V1 will also pass through the superior orbital fissure. Now, previous video we had seen that V1 has three daughters. It has three branches, main branches. What are those branches? L stands for lacrimal, right? Another is frontal, And the third one is, let me extend it here, the third one is nasociliary. These are the three branches of V1. So V1 will divide into its respective branches, and these branches will also pass through the superior orbital fissure. Through the lateral part, let us now try to remember the structures now. Through the lateral part of the superior orbital fissures, LFT, okay, हम लोग ऐसे याद रख सकते हैं, लिवर फंक्शन टेस्ट होते हैं ना बहुत सारे लोगों के, LFT याद रखने का. So L stands for lacrimal, F stands for frontal, and T stands for trochlear cranial nerve. L and F are the branches of V1 along with the trochlear nerve. Also you can see one blue dot here, that is the superior ophthalmic vein. Through the middle part there is a sandwich. Oh no, okay. A stands for abducens cranial nerve. And what is this sandwich? Sandwich is oculomotor sandwiching the nasociliary nerve. Okay, the superior division of oculomotor and the inferior division of oculomotor is the third cranial nerve, will sandwich the nasociliary branch of V1. So there is a sandwich here, Ono sandwich, okay. And through the medial part of the superior orbital fissure passes another vein. Obviously, if this is the superior ophthalmic vein, this is the inferior ophthalmic vein. Coming to the foramen, which is just behind the medial part of the superior orbital fissure, a blind foramen, which will not open to the external aspect of the skull, but it will open into the pterygopalatine fossa. This foramen you will not be able to see through the norma basale, but this will open into the pterygopalatine fossa, and then through the pterygopalatine fossa it will communicate through bony orbit, it will communicate to the infratemporal fossa like that. So what is the structure passing through foramen rotundum? Structure is maxillary nerve, that is V2. Alright, so V2, which is the second division of the trigeminal cranial nerve, will pass through foramen rotundum. Then we have the foramen of Vesalius, which is also called as emissary sphenoidal foramen, and hence it gives a clue that what will pass through the foramen of Vesalius, an emissary vein will pass through it. And then comes the favorite of all the examiners, and what is that? That is foramen ovale. And what passes through foramen ovale? What passes through the foramen ovale? The mnemonic is male, and this refers to mandibular nerve, accessory meningeal artery, lesser petrosal nerve, and an emissary vein. This first you will have to learn, but slowly and slowly you will understand all these things. Remember that the third division of V3, that is the fifth cranial nerve, passes through foramen ovale. The second division passes through foramen rotundum, and the first division, that is V1, passes through superior orbital fissure. यहाँ तक में ट्राइजेमिनल की कहानी खत्म हो जाती है, foramen ovale. Okay, lesser petrosal nerve, accessory meningeal artery. Here I want you to remember just one information. Remember that the middle meningeal artery and accessory meningeal artery are the branches of the maxillary artery. What passes through foramen innominatum? If at all this is present, then lesser petrosal nerve, instead of passing through the foramen ovale, it will pass through foramen innominatum. Then more posteriorly we have foramen spinosum. And what passes through foramen spinosum? Triple M or M3. That is middle meningeal artery, middle meningeal vein, and meningeal branch of the mandibular nerve. This will pass through the foramen spinosum. Just now I told you that middle meningeal artery and accessory meningeal artery are the branches of maxillary artery. You know, in the infratemporal fossa में जो दो लोग राज करते हैं, who have a kingdom here, mandibular nerve and maxillary artery. So remember that foramen ovale, if you see from the basal side, this is the foramen ovale. Just beneath it is the ganglion. Which ganglion is there just beneath it? Utek ganglion in the infratemporal fossa. That is suspended by the mandibular nerve and maxillary artery. So mandibular nerve and maxillary artery, they reign in the kingdom of infratemporal fossa, and maxillary artery gives accessory meningeal artery and middle meningeal artery. Foramen lacerum. What passes through foramen lacerum? Now we have seen that the internal carotid artery, it traverses the foramen lacerum. But the question it was, what passes through it? Through and through. What passes? Emissary vein passes through it, and meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery. These are the two things which you will have to remember, which will pass through it. And what happens in this area? In this area, the internal carotid artery will pass over the foramen lacerum. Another thing which will happen is that over the foramen lacerum, the greater superficial petrosal nerve will join with the deep petrosal nerve, and it will form the Vidian nerve. It will form the Vidian nerve. Right? So these are the two things which happen over the foramen lacerum. The Vidian nerve is also called as nerve to pterygoid canal, and it will traverse the pterygoid canal. Pterygoid canal lies in the anterior wall of foramen lacerum. Let me show you the pterygoid canal. Right? Now see, this is the foramen, this is the location of the foramen lacerum. And just medial to it, this is the pterygoid canal, and I will pass a wire through it. Let me just see if it is. Yes, I will pass a wire through it, and this wire will open in the posterior wall of the pterygopalatine fossa. This is the pterygoid root, pterygoid plates, right? And here it will articulate with the maxilla, and it will form the pterygopalatine fossa, which lies in the interiors of pterygomaxillary suture within this. And so if I want to show you the pterygoid canal, then again I am telling you here in the articulated skull that this is the foramen lacerum, and this is the lingula. Here I will point it out with this. This is the lingula. Just medial to the lingula, we will mark in the anterior wall of the foramen lacerum, we will mark the pterygoid canal through which the nerve to pterygoid canal, that is the Vidian nerve, will pass. And how Vidian nerve is formed? I have just told you. Greater superficial petrosal nerve plus deep petrosal nerve will form the Vidian nerve. The next thing which I want to show you is a zest of what are the various cranial nerves exiting the skull through various foramens. There are 12 pairs of the cranial nerves. The first is olfactory cranial nerve, which passes through the cribriform plate of anterior cranial fossa. Through the middle cranial fossa, these are the 5 cranial nerves which are passing. Second is the optic cranial nerve, which passes through the optic canal. We just have seen. Third is 3rd, 4th and 6th. 3, 4, 6. That is oculomotor, trochlear and abducent. They will pass through the superior orbital fissure. Besides this, the 5th cranial nerve, V1, will also pass through superior orbital fissure. V2, that is maxillary nerve, will pass through foramen rotundum. V3 will pass through the foramen ovale. And mandibular nerve, as it passes through the foramen ovale, it will supply the structures within the infratemporal fossa. Now, the posterior cranial fossa, which we will be doing later, I just want to tell you that total 6 cranial nerves, they pass from here, 5 from the middle cranial fossa and 6 from here. That is facial and vestibulocochlear nerve, they will pass. 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerve, they will pass through the jugular foramen, and 12th cranial nerve will pass through the hypoglossal canal. The facial and the vestibulocochlear will pass through the internal auditory meatus. Interior of the skull. Just correlate it what you will learn in the basal. If you want to correlate, you will have to articulate the bones and be clear about the boundaries of the bones so that you do not get confused. The articulation of the sphenoid bone with the temporal bone. This is the petrous part of the temporal bone and this is the squamous part of the temporal bone. Right? Now, if I superimpose this, it will be somewhat like this. Right? So, this is the boundary of the sphenoid bone. Very clearly remember that along the posteromedial boundary, you will get all these foramina. That is foramen ovale at least you will identify and spinosum you will identify. Similarly, here you can identify along the posteromedial border foramen ovale and foramen spinosum. Understood? Where you will identify foramen lacerum, where the petrous part will meet the sphenoid and the basiocciput. So this will be foramen lacerum. There should be no confusion about this. Okay. Now if you want to see the morphology of the anterior surface of the petrous temporal bone, this morphology is what they ask you. So I'll start with the apex of the petrous temporal bone. If you observe the apex of the petrous temporal bone, there is a depression here. Okay, there's a depression here. Let me have a pen and I can mark it as number 1 maybe. You have a depression here and this is number 1. I'm marking it. Number 1. This depression is called as trigeminal depression and this is where the trigeminal ganglion stays. It lies here, the trigeminal ganglion. Okay. Anterior surface of petrous temporal bone, the first depression is the trigeminal ganglion depression. It is ridged posteriorly and then there is again a depression. Okay, depression, ridge, depression. This depression forms the roof of internal auditory meatus. Not in my domain today, but it is in the posterior cranial fossa. So I'll show you, I'll just turn it, the posterior surface of the petrous temporal bone. This is the internal auditory meatus and this depression on the anterior surface is the roof of internal auditory meatus. Going more posteriorly, then there is elevation. Okay, I am at the tip of the elevation and this is called as the arcuate eminence. And this arcuate eminence is formed because of the underlying superior semicircular canal. I hope you know that the semicircular canals are a part of the internal ear. What does that mean? That means that under this lies your internal ear, this area. And then more laterally, again there is a depression and then this depression is called as tegmen tympani, which forms the roof of the middle ear. Okay, so petrous temporal bone has all the hearing capacity, people, hearing and balancing capacity. Once again, quickly recall that we start from the medial to the lateral side, a depression for the trigeminal ganglion bordered posteriorly by a ridge, then the roof of the internal auditory meatus, then the arcuate eminence with underlying superior semicircular canal. More posteriorly is tegmen tympani, which overlies the middle ear cavity. और ये रहा हमारा external ear. I told you, it's just that external ear, you enter from here and all the processings, all the important processings takes place here and then into the brain.